friends. This is Wheezy from the What is Truth podcast. Hope everyone is doing rather exquisite. This is a small clip, and if you fancy listening to the entire episode, please visit the link tree below. This is due to the heavy censorship on this particular platform, so I hope you guys understand and hope to catch you on these other platforms. Much love. Welcome to the What is Truth podcast. This should be a doozy of an episode. I am joined by my man, Mr. Seven C's. What's up, Seven?
Not much, man. Happy to be here on a Saturday talking about controlled ops while they manufacture World War III.
Absolutely. Yeah, this will be a fire episode. We're going to be going down deep on the Joe Rogan side of things, as well as Ian Carroll, amongst possible others. Joe Rogan is a sacred cow in the quote-unquote alternative media. He is not to be touched, supposedly, allegedly, and so we're gonna break that commandment tonight. But for those that may not be familiar with you, you can give us a little bit of introduction, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just a researcher. No like formal education or anything. Just kind of started connecting dots over the last couple of years, and I've done some work with David Icke's network, and I've also just got off like sort of a tour of podcasts where I'm basically showing off the work and the research that I'm doing, where I am going through just connecting the dots. The webs that I have are pretty synonymous with my brand, I think, at this point, and it just kind of goes to visualize like how everything's all connected. It's all fake. They're all in bed with each other, with NGOs and all other kinds of shit. And they're all like Kabbalists and globalists, man.
Yeah, it's all fake and gay, man, for sure.
Yep.
And, we're going to be doing the show, I presume, while the Trump military parade happens. So
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll be keeping our eyes out on that. With everything popping off, you got Iran clapping back at Israel yesterday. And then you have Trump doing a military parade today. Last time I did a show was when the fake Trump assassination happened while we were doing the show. So
oh shit,
I don't know if any fireworks will pop off, but I'm sure we'll be on top of that.
Fuck, man. Yeah, it was also pointed out to me that it's apparently Flag Day or False Flag Day.
Yeah. Well, there's supposed to be several thousand parades throughout the nation, some protesting ICE, some protesting No King's Day. And so, damn, dude, the grounds are fertile for a false flag, man. 100%.
Did you hear about the shooting last night on the representatives, the U.S. representatives?
No, I did not.
There were, I believe it was 2 Congress people. And allegedly, from what I've been seeing like coming out, he has like a private military contract company that is funded by China that runs out of the Republic of Congo, which sounds exactly like Eric Prince, because he is also funded by China and runs private military contractors out of Congo. And he's allegedly he's part of the Alliance for Defending Freedom, which is just the Council for National Policy. One of the main people from the Alliance for Defending Freedom, Josh Hawley, was like attempting to do an FBI congressional investigation into the No Kings riots. And then now we have this guy who allegedly is also part of that same group, being the controlled opposition left, like trying to basically whip everyone into a frenzy and make it seem as though Congress people are not safe.
Yeah, that seems to be part of the MO. It's kind of, when you look back at January 6th too, it was made to make people feel not welcome in a public space, around public buildings.
Yeah.
Anyone should be able to go through these buildings, no problem. But now they have their excuse. Well, look what happened here. We have to put these control measures in place. And that's how they continually erode our civil liberties. So I guess tied into this is Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan experience. I mentioned it before, but for those that are maybe newer listeners, I think a lot of podcasters a good chunk of podcasters can say that they were first inspired by listening to Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
I started my show 6 years ago, and I had been listening to Joe Rogan for well over a decade. Every single episode, as soon as an alert. So, because of my CDL job, that's all I did was drive, drive, drive. So, listening to podcasts, long format podcasts, was an exquisite way to kill that time during work.
Yeah.
And so the longer the Joe Rogan podcast was, the better for me. Because, boom, that makes my day that much, quicker for me. Especially if the conversation was engaging and whatnot. I believe the first time I came across a Joe Rogan podcast was when he had Milo Yiannopoulos, or the gay conservative.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some kind of controversy, and they mentioned the Joe Rogan podcast. I'm like, whoa, Joe Rogan has a podcast. I enjoyed Joe Rogan as a UFC commentator. I enjoyed. So I was like, well, let's hear him out. I listened to one episode and I was hooked. I checked out his comedy consequently, and I I feel his comedy sucks.
Yeah, it does.
Freaking terrible, man. And I don't want people to think, oh, well, you don't like Rogan. Of course you're gonna say it. No. I've always thought his comedy sucked. I got banned from the JRE YouTube channel for stating that Joe Rogan. It might have been Jamie or one of them clowns, but I said something along the lines: Joe Rogan, UFC commentator, awesome. Joe Rogan, podcaster, awesome. Joe Rogan, the comedian, sucks ass. Boom! I got banned. I couldn't comment anymore on that channel. But I've always enjoyed his shows. He would get a wide range of guests covering all kinds of different topics: scientists, engineers, archaeologists, historians, all kinds of folks. And after listening to him, I'm only giving this preface because I don't want people to come in, oh, well, you're just a hater. You've never listened to his podcast. I'm giving you the entire background. I call myself a Lincoln researcher these days because of all the hours I've put in to that topic. Well, similarly, I've listened to well over 1,000 hours of Joe Rogan experience shows over the course of a decade. I mean, if that's
wild.
A connoisseur, man, I mean, I don't know what is. And you know what? When I used to listen to people shit on Joe Rogan, I would get pissed off because I'm like, you're taking that show out of context. What he really said was this. I was out there defending the name of Joe Rogan, because I would see these articles that would take some of his stuff out of context and then write complete bullshit articles. And I was out there correcting the record, trying to set it straight. And so, as we go through this show, I just want to preface this, like I do know what the hell I'm talking about when I talk about Joe Rogan. I listen to every damn episode. And I think about a year back, you know what did it for me finally? What made me put the hammer down like that? Fuck Joe Rogan, was when he platformed Donald Trump. And the reason for it was, for many years, I had heard him with my own fucking ears, episode after episode, when Trump was brought up, him saying, I will never have Trump. Basically along the lines, Trump is a scumbag. He's a con artist. He brought up Trump University. He brought up all these things. He was always shitting on him. Yeah. And I'm going to bring up some clips, but I want to hear, Seven, what you have to say, before we get started.
So I've always known who Joe Rogan was. I remember my dad being like super big into UFC when I was a kid, back when like they didn't have the weight classes, and you could have like a sumo wrestler versus like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, and shit like that. And then slowly I came to learn who Joe Rogan was through Fear Factor. And watching that show, I used to like it when I was a kid. Found out he had a podcast probably a few years after it had started, and I never really paid attention to it, but I never like took a strong stance, I guess, one way or the other. I've always been like sort of impartial. But over the years, just knowing how the world works, And like when we talk about people like Epstein, you know, we always investigate, well, who did Epstein invest in? Which companies were he associated with? Who was like around him and spending time with him and, you know, shit like that. And when you apply that same sort of logic to like politics and like the private sector, the podcasting sector, and you start looking into like where all the money's coming from and shit, I started to be like, wait a minute, none of this stuff is good. And so I have taken sort of a strong stance against Joe Rogan and his podcast because of the things that I see funding. But I don't have like a personal vendetta or issue with the person, I guess. Like Joe Rogan's never done anything to piss me off, but it is fucked up that he's getting sponsored and funded by all these things and platforming all these talking points and shit. And that I have an issue with. Oh, you're muted.
Damn it. Sorry. Yeah, I was just getting my clips lined up. Yeah, man, 100%. And I think it's important to preface our positions where, you know, what angles we're coming from, just so people know. You know, I think sometimes when people start hearing their sacred cows getting grilled,
Yeah.
people will start to get angry, like, oh, well, you just hate him. You just said his comedy sucks. And I went to a Joe Rogan comic show and I was peeing my pants with laughter. Good on you, man.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest that I just feel his comedy sucks. But as I stated, you know, at the very beginning, his stance on Donald Trump was what sealed the deal. Dude, it was a hard breakup for me. I'm not gonna lie. It might sound cheesy, it might even sound gay to some people for me to say that, but I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
Because that's how hooked, that's how invested I was into the Joe Rogan experience. And let's see.
I've got a buddy who like I've kind of showed a lot of this stuff to, and he still doesn't care. And he's like, I don't care, man. I just like it, and he watches every episode.
Yeah, it's one of those hard pills to swallow. And these days, I will listen to if he's got an important guest. Like the other day, he had Cash Patel, Cash App Patel, which ironically is also a sponsor of the Joe Rogan Experience. Yeah. I'm sure we'll find out. But Cash App Patel, I'm not even making a joke. Anyone look up Cash Patel's full name, and it's literally Cash App. Yeah. But that was I think the last episode, or actually he had Mary Toblin the other day, anti-vaxxer on his show. So I listened to that. I will still listen to his shows, but as I listen, I feel all right, this guy's controlled. You know, there's things he can say, there's things that he's supposed to stay away from and not go there. And we are going to give you some clear examples as you know, to back this up. Now let's listen to this clip on Donald Trump, because a lot of people, I remember people getting angry when I was telling them Joe Rogan has said he would never have Donald Trump on his show.
Yeah.
And MAGAs would be like, oh, you're just a hater. Joe Rogan loves Donald Trump. They would always say that I was full of shit. And Joe Rogan has repeatedly say this. This is one of the more recent times where he said he wouldn't have Trump on. And it was on the Lex Friedman podcast. So let's play this.
Anyone else, if he was a Republican, if that was Donald Trump doing that, every fucking talk show would be screaming for him to be off the air. And by the way, I'm not a Trump supporter in any way, shape, or form. I've had the opportunity to have him on my show more than once. I've said no every time. I don't want to help him. I'm not interested in helping him.
The night is still young. We'll see.
If I have him on, the night is still young?
Yeah.
You think I'll have him on?
I think you'll have him on.
Really? Yeah. Why do you think that? Because you'll have Putin on?
So Lex was like, you're gonna have him on, and Joe's like, why do you think that? And I bet Lex Friedman was like, because I fucking told you that you're having him on. You better.
What a weird response to that. But you clearly heard Rogan right there say, I won't have him on. His people have come to me to have him on. He's been hounded to platform Donald Trump, and Joe Rogan didn't want to, which is consistent. Like I said, I've listened to over 1,000 hours of show. I was listening to every single episode every single alert coming in. As soon as an episode drop, boom, I'll drop any other podcast. I'm gonna listen to this right now. This just came up on my feed. I'm heading there. And so I heard him many times. And so there you go. You heard it right there. That was one of the more recent times in which he said that he wouldn't have Trump on. Now, there's another clip that I wanted to show, and where Patrick David Bett went on to the Rogan podcast, and it was a weird exchange, because Rogan, up until this point, was also saying that he wouldn't have Trump on.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick David Bett, somewhat aggressively, like a greasy salesman, says, "Yeah, you're gonna have him on.
Yeah,
you're gonna Patrick. Him.
Yeah, Patrick Bet David's a piece of shit anyway.
Oh yeah, dude, 100% pro-Zionist, always pushing Zionist agendas, 100%. Yep. So let's hear this. Is a minute and a half. Let's hear this.
I would say if you don't do the podcast with him, you're helping the establishment and you're helping a guy named Joseph Biden. I think you're helping that person. It's kind of weird. But indirectly in your mind, you're helping Joseph Biden win by not interviewing Trump.
Did you come on this podcast specifically to try to get me to interview Trump?
No, you brought up Trump multiple times. I never brought it up.
It seems like you did. I think you did.
I could tell you, Joe, don't go live with this podcast and keep it until after you do Trump's interview, and then say, Pat told me don't do it, and then they're going to release this, even if it's 3 months from now. I wouldn't care if you did that. Your guys' support, I respect. I love the work you're doing. I'm talking to you as if the camera's not on right now. Don't go live with this. Go live a week after Trump. And we can date it right now. We can show the phone. It's 3/12, August 2nd, Wednesday. Okay, here's camera. If you don't go live with this until after Trump, I don't care.
Well, I'm going to go live.
I'm just saying to you, from my perspective, what I'm trying to tell you is I don't want you to think there is a, motive. The motive is, as a friend, as a guy that's in the same space as you, and you're the Michael, you're the Brady of the space, I'm encouraging Michael and Brady to consider this. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll consider it.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, thank you.
What a weird-ass interaction.
Yeah, he was like, it felt like he was guilt-tripping him and peer pressuring him and basically saying like, hey, if you don't have Trump on, then you're going to give Joe Biden the election.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I listened to that as soon as it dropped. I'm like, man, why is Patrick David Bett pressuring Rogan? Yeah. Rogan said 1 million times that he wouldn't have him on. I thought that was super weird, man. And I think once he did have Trump on, if people, and I'll pull up that clip, this is where I want to have the conversation too. Like, what exactly is Trump or Joe Rogan? Is he a 100% bought and sold propagandist? Or is he someone that has been bought, corrupted, 100% sure, but he'll drop some Easter eggs for people? Yeah. And I don't know where I personally sit there, because when he had Trump on, when he asked Trump for the ear regarding the Trump assassination attempt, he kind of smirks, like laughing, like he didn't believe the ear damage at all. Trump kind of looks at him annoyed that he was even asked to show his ear.
Yeah.
And so that kind of makes it like, God damn, was he throwing an Easter egg? I mean, in a similar vein, and if we're thinking about Joe Rogan, the Joe Rogan Experience as the new Laurel Canyon 2.0, Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick kind of falls in that same vein, man, because he did Eyes Wide Shut. He had all these Easter eggs in The Shining. And some people say that he helped in the moon landings in some capacity. He knew a lot of shit, but he was throwing Easter eggs out there. So even though he was indeed controlled, they were throwing some little Easter eggs to show, look, I'm
to like keep the trust and the faith and shit.
It could be that, or maybe it's legitimate. I don't know where I fall, but yeah, let's discuss on it. I think it's time for some charts, man.
Yeah.
where do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean it. So a little while ago, I actually put together some webs on the current and previous connections to the Joe Rogan podcast. These are like the entities that have funded him and the people connected to those. So obviously Spotify is like one of the biggest ones. With Spotify actually comes connection to Peter Thiel. The CEO of Spotify has actually participated in like the Bilderberg committee meetings. So the things that are going on right now with all the elites, the CEO of Spotify has participated in those and been to those discussions. And I actually have an interesting theory that Spotify and streaming music and things.
You brought up Jeff Epstein.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that's listened to Joe Rogan for quite some time, several episodes, Joe Rogan seems to be pretty keyed up on a lot of Epstein stuff. He's always talking about, he'll even challenge people that's, when he has guests that say, oh yeah, Jeff Epstein definitely killed himself. He'll challenge it. Don't you find it kind of weird that, the guy that performed the autopsy found a couple of inconsistencies? Don't you find it weird that the cameras weren't working? He's always pushing back. So Joe Rogan knows quite a bit of Epstein stuff. So it's super interesting. I want to bring this clip up, or not clip, but let me bring this up real quick here. It's interesting that he had Adam Perry Lang for episode 1469. Who the hell is Adam Perry Lang? This guy right here. Who is this guy? Maybe some of you have never heard of this guy. Well, maybe the comments can give us some insight.
Yeah.
Let's see. Joe claims, these are YouTube comments, by the way. Joe claims he doesn't have guests dictate what he can talk about. Well, that was a lie. What? This guy's a cook. What are they talking about? Here's another comment. This guy had a 4-year stint as a personal chef to Epstein. Holy smokes.
What was that third comment? What did that say?
Seriously, Joe? Seriously? Epstein insider and not one single question? Okay. So I listened to this episode because, like I stated at the very beginning, I was a let's see. God, this website's full of pop-ups. I listened to that episode, and sure enough, that episode with Adam Perry Lang was nothing but cooking. What are the best knives to use? How to prepare a souffle? All cooking-related questions. So, who is this Adam Perry Lang guy? Amid heightened anticipation for the disclosure of names associated with the American financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, a recent revelation has brought attention to Epstein's former personal chef, Adam Perry Lang. The connection emerged when NFL star Aaron Rodgers mentioned Jimmy Kimmel in relation to Epstein, subsequently leading to the resurfacing of reports about Lang's arrest at Kimmel's beachside rental home in Hermosa, California in February of 2019. All right, I don't really trust that website, so we'll get out of there. I was getting all these damn pop-ups.
Yeah.
So this is a clear instance where I already told you, Joe Rogan is pretty keyed up on all things Epstein. He's continuously talking about how, isn't it weird that Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting in prison and she was convicted for convicting, or trafficking kids, but none of the customers or clients have ever been brought to justice. Isn't it weird?
Yeah.
So, as a normie, you're like, yeah, that's right, Joe. Hell yeah, man. Keep bringing up the Epstein stuff alive. You know what's going on. You'll even correct people on Epstein stuff. continue. So why the hell, when he had Adam Perry Lang, who was a 4-year chef of Jeff Epstein, why wasn't an Epstein question ever brought up? I want to hear a Joe Rogan apologize or apologist answer that question.
Yeah.
This is the biggest podcast in the goddamn planet. I'm sure they vet all their guests. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, thoroughly.
4 years with Jeff Epstein, and not only that, you saw there in 2019, he was arrested at Jimmy Kimmel because apparently this Adam Perry Lang is good buddies with Jimmy Kimmel.
Yeah.
Which raises other questions as well. But yeah, not a single question. They just talked about knives. One of the most boring episodes that I had listened to as someone that listened to episode after episode after episode.
Did they say why he was arrested?
Yeah, he apparently got swatted. And if you read the report on it, he claims that he was cooperating with the authorities, that he was illegally swatted. The weird thing is, and a lot of people have pointed out, why was his car idling in the driveway for 8 hours in California, where they have like a no idling? They're pretty strict about that shit. But so he claims that someone swatted him, they just reported him and said all this shit. But a lot of the stuff doesn't really add up with the official report. So
yeah,
who knows what the hell's going on there?
I mean, that just reminds me of like when all of the influencers were claiming they were being swatted.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah. So that's certainly weird. And then given that he was a chef of Epstein's for 4 years, not bringing it up. And that's not the only time Joe Rogan has done that.
Yeah.
A few years back, he had Anthony Kiedis of the Chili Peppers on his show.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Kiedis, for those unaware, he's made some headlines recently for having a 19-year-old girlfriend. Kiedis is, I think, in his 60s by this point, and he's got a 19-year-old girlfriend. I guess he's a rock star, sure. But when you realize Anthony Kiedis went to Epstein Island, that makes all that shit even that much.
Yeah.
Damn. Now, don't get me wrong. I love me a good Chili Pepper jam, a good little tune for every now and then. Give it away type of. The son of a bitch was on Epstein Island.
Yeah.
And was any Epstein-related questions ever brought up to Anthony Kiedis by Joe Rogan when he made that appearance? Not once. Not once. So there's two examples. I'm sure I could think of other examples of former Epstein visitors in which Joe Rogan never grilled them on that association, So, I mean,
it's concerned. It's
there,
like
man.
A pattern. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a couple of other, sponsors that he has that are really close to Israel or are based out of Israel. And as you know, like Jeffrey Epstein was very, very close to Israel through Robert Maxwell and his ties to, Ehud Barak, the former prime minister. And then again, going back full circle to Peter Thiel and Peter Thiel's, proximity to Israel and the fact that he sells them, AI technology to do kill lists in Gaza. I mean, this guy's basically automating a genocide on behalf of an ethno state that has captured our country and bought all of our politicians, and Joe Rogan's just like buddies with him. It's insane. Another one of the
that's a good point.
Yeah like they didn't know,
Yeah,
it's nuts. Another sponsor that he has is ExpressVPN. And ExpressVPN is an Israeli company.
Ooh. Did you have a chart on that?
I do. That's also in the chart. And then I also have a thread for like links and stuff to back all of this information up.
Let me ask you this, Seven. Can the lay public get a hold of your charts?
There are a few of them that are available.
Okay.
For most of these, I feel like they're not in a complete enough state to share out like a full version. But I always do like screenshots and things like that. But after I get everything and I feel like I have a full picture, I'll usually like upload them somewhere. I was doing Dropbox, but somebody told me that was Mossad owned. So I have to dig into that and find another place to upload these.
Yeah. Just a question, because I've seen people ask me in the past, like, "Hey, how do I get a hold of some of these charts?" So I was just wondering.
Yeah, if
Just
they
being a nosy cow.
no worries. If they want to go to Dropbox, they can search Dropbox on my Twitter profile, and usually like as a keyword or something, and I have 5 or 6, 7 different ones that are uploaded there that people should be able to access.
Awesome, man.
And
Awesome.
download also, and like do whatever you want with. Share it out, steal it. I don't care. You know, information is information. Nobody owns rights over the truth. So
Yeah, and you do live streams on these webs, and you it's almost like a community effort where people in the live chat, "Hey, what about this guy? What about this person? What about this company?" And they help you build these webs, man. So it's an awesome thing you do.
yeah, I appreciate it, man. Not only does it like show people how, just like a regular guy can just look into things. It's not like some secret skill that people have. You just have to have the desire to go find it and do the work that it takes to connect the dots and shit like that. And this program that I use is really good for that. And I don't know, man. It's like once you start putting everything together, you start very quickly realizing that there is too much shit for one person to be able to connect it all. And that's where I was like, I've got to have people help me, man, because it's like, I think I realized that when I started my Trump web for the Trump administration before the election.
Yeah.
And it started to like get like this. And I was like, man, there is no way that I can do this for like everything. I need help.
Audio listeners, put this timestamp 42 minutes in and go to one of my video platforms if you're listening to this later on in the week. Check out this goddamn web. Holy crap, dude.
It's insane.
That is insane, dude.
And the ones like the Peter Thiel, Elon Musk one are starting to get out of hand.
Holy crap, look at this shit.
So this goes up.
Damn.
Yeah, and I mean this shows like basically like collusion and working together, and like the same uniparty that we're seeing like run things and nudge things certain ways and shit. This goes all the way back to the French Revolution, all the way through like Teddy Roosevelt and FDR and how they were shitty. The original technocracy movement, the Rockefeller takeover of the medical industry and shit, all the way to like today. And people like Mike Flynn, the wellness company, Palantir, and everything in between.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, once it started to get like that, I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do this by myself. So I think it's a good thing, to like get other people involved, and, there might be shit you're missing or looking at it from a wrong angle or something. And I've learned so fucking much in the last year doing this.
Absolutely, yeah. And you can get overwhelmed, man, when it's just one thing. But when you have a community effort, I exposed a couple of frauds back in my day. I exposed this guy named Sean Atwood back when I first started. That's what got me a little bit known. Certified grifter, who became famous because of the Epstein, but the dude is a straight up grifter. But I wasn't doing charts or anything like that, but I was doing live streams, and then people in the live chats started saying, "Hey, look into Atwood's this, look into this video, look into this." Dude, they were emailing me, sending me all kinds of information. There is no fucking way I could have done it by myself, man. So when you have a bunch of people sending you shit here, left and right, it just makes it that much easier, man. Yeah. So super, super awesome to get the community involved at all times. Yeah, dude. I wanted to show the clip of Trump and Rogan. So I played the clips where Joe Rogan had said, I gave you a couple of examples. No, I'm not gonna have him on. I'm not gonna have him on. And then it happens. Joe Rogan has Donald Trump on his show, and it was that for me was personally when I said, you know what, I'm done. I'm off. I'm not gonna be a faithful listener. This dude, and people were telling me prior to this, like, dude, he's bought and paid for, 100%. But I guess because of how dedicated I had been to listening to all these shows for all these years, it was hard for me to let go. But this was the final straw. But I want to show when Rogan asked Donald Trump about the ear, look at Joe Rogan's smirk and look at Donald Trump's annoyance on his, the countenance on his face when he gets asked this.
Once they shot you, I was like, he's got to come in here. It's all about timing. It's all about the timing.
Timing's
I think
good.
timing's perfect. Do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there?
I do.
Let me say. We got
So right over here,
that. That's a tiny little
see,
mark.
it zicked right there.
Yeah. It healed up pretty fucking good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's not like some of the wrestlers, some of the UFC fighters.
No, you didn't
It's
get
a little bit.
cauliflower.
No. It was sort of like a top shot.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the bullet was a
Boy.
little of the ass, but you see the thing's taken off a little bit. But it makes me a tougher guy. The fighters.
Once they
guy.
shot
Yeah, what a crock of shit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually got Alex Jones to respond to me once because I told him that I said that the Trump assassination attempt was completely staged, and he was like, "Oh, everything's staged but you," and I was like, "What the fuck? This is coming from you, Mr. Sandy Hook?"
That's the best. Yeah, that's the best response to. It's like, I know you are, but what am I? That's the type of response. That's hilarious. I mean, that's another PSYOP influencer right there. Alex fucking Jones, man. This is a guy that at one point was questioning legitimate shit. I mean, Sandy Hook. There's a lot of shit that doesn't add up.
Yeah.
And then he gets sued. I don't know how much I believe of that trial. Allegedly $1 billion, and he's still putting out fucking shows. Is
Yeah,
he be bankrupted?
I think it was a sham in the same way that like Tucker Carlson got fired from Fox, or Nick Fuentes fell out with the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro, like all that same shit, man. It's false crosses for their false saviors.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm with you on that, man. It's a lot of this shit just doesn't add up, man. Yeah, even going back to this Trump Rogan podcast, this is what I mean, where I don't know if he is putting out these little Easter eggs to try to relate with quote unquote us, or if he's putting out the Easter eggs to kind of like make it look like he's part of us still. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, guys, I swear I'm with you guys. There, here's some Easter eggs. That could be the play as well, because for a long time it was hidden how much money he got off the Spotify deal. Rumors were out that for a long time that it was $100 million contract, which is massive amounts of money. And then later it comes out it was closer to 200 million. And then I don't even think they ever gave out the exact figures for his renewed contract with Spotify. But dude, I started wondering today when we were getting ready for this episode. I bet you the son of a bitch is a billionaire, bro. And that number, that 100 million number out, which is a shit ton of money, no question. But it's just given out to perhaps to make him not look like he's completely bought out and paid for. You see what I'm saying? Because if people found out he was a billionaire, like, oh, the motherfucker is sold out for sure.
I just sent you a link where he did get $250 million for that new deal.
Yeah. And then that doesn't even include his ads, bro.
His sponsorship money, his speaking fees, his UFC money, which UFC is owned by the Emanuels.
Yep.
And
not only that, the YouTube ad revenue.
Yeah.
That he now has. Yeah, there we go. From Forbes magazine, Spotify deal worth up to See, up to 250 million.
I'm wondering if it's year by year and he gets like a yearly payout, like an athlete, where it's
Yeah.
like if he stopped the show for any reason, they wouldn't pay him the last of it or whatever.
But see, this is what I mean. In a similar vein, I could be off, I could be wrong for sure, but just like I think the Alex Jones trial was all manufactured bullshit. I wonder if this contract is all manufactured bullshit. We're getting told that it's it's a couple $100 million, shit ton of money for you and I, 100%. But if the real numbers are $1 billion, for having, I mean, that kind of makes sense, dude, for being at the head of the biggest podcast in the fucking world.
Yeah.
$1 billion is a bargain.
Yeah.
But if you only throw it out, oh yeah, it's only a couple $100 million. He's still a normal guy. He still does UFC events. He's to make him relatable. You see what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, he smokes cigars and does DMT and
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that Matthew North said, that the Joe Rogan Experience is the fakest, realest show out there. And essentially, basically, that his show is specifically aimed at centrists, people in the middle. When you look at a lot of most things there, you either have to be left or you have to be on the right. There's really no gray area. There's no room for any gray area or any nuance. And Joe Rogan, over the years, that's what attracted me to his show, man, was because he would have people from the left. He would have people from the right. I found that attractive. And when you look at the whole picture of the demographics of the United States, for example, the vast majority of people probably are closer to the middle ideologically.
Mm-hmm.
But we're constantly getting bombarded with extreme leftist shit, with the woke ideology, trans bullshit getting shoved down our throats, or extreme right-wing shit where you got to be Israel first and Zionism and conservative values type of shit. It's all these extremists.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of people probably, by and large, fall in that middle. And then here's where Joe Rogan comes in, appealing to that big-ass chunk of centrist America, if you will. And so by pushing these, programs, when you look at his sponsors, like you showed up on your webs, with On It, 23andMe and all these things, it all starts to shape up that this is what he has been doing. I mean, especially when he started becoming very chummy with Elon Musk. I remember when that relationship, Joe Rogan was always talking about Elon Musk. Man, he's one of the smartest guys, around. And he was always oohing and eyeing over Elon Musk. And I remember listening. Yeah, dude, I remember when that episode, when he finally scores Elon Musk comes on the show, smokes a fat joint, and it, dude, plastered everywhere.
Yep.
And really after that, they got super close, and if you're someone like a Joe Rogan, let's assume that maybe he was a normal guy that started his podcast in his room, in his little 1-bedroom apartment off of his laptop. And I don't know, have you ever gone and listened to his first episodes?
No.
Yeah, if you listen to his very first episode, he was excited that he had 90 people on a live stream.
Oh shit.
On YouTube. He was excited and he seemed legitimately like, holy shit, dude, 90 people, that's, if you get 100 people in a comedy club, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
So that's how he was looking at it from that standpoint. And now he's grown to the biggest podcast in the world. Now he's fucking buddies with Elon Musk. When before he was just doing it for shits and giggles in a 1-bedroom apartment, or where, someone that was just having a regular job just like everyone else.
So it kind of reminds me a little bit of like the pattern with Alex Jones, where like Alex Jones just started on like this humble radio show and, was just a guy in Texas. And now he's like basically one of the mouthpieces for the president and his administration. And it's like, if I had to I guess like describe what Joe Rogan feels like to me. He's the beach because he allows people to come in and draw the line in the sand wherever they want, and the discourse never goes beyond that, I feel like, and that's where the control sort of comes in, because he'll bring in, like, I don't know, somebody from an intelligence agency, and then they'll say like CIA bad, but only in other countries, and we don't do operations on Americans or some shit like that. That's a hypothetical example, but that's sort of what it seems like it is like a look here no further, being like, hey, this would be best for everybody if we just let AI take over. And he's saying it to a guy that is funding the AI takeover of government, partnered with people like Palantir and Elon Musk, who are in the government, in CIA, saying that what they're doing is a good thing.
Yeah.
That's
It's
scary,
normalized.
dude. That's
Super
evil.
scary, bro. Yeah.
That's like evil.
And doing it while giving all appearances that he's one of us.
Yeah.
Just a regular Joe Rogan. Get out of here, bro. Oh man. Yeah, it's super wild. So I want to, do you have anything more on Rogan, or should we move on to our next little sacred cow?
Oh man, I have a couple more things that I could bring up.
Yeah, let's do it. Hell yeah.
So I'll go through. I actually have a thread on Joe Rogan.
Okay.
On Twitter, and I'll share that so that you can. Let's see here. Let me make sure I'm pulling up the right screen. Oh nope.
Hope everyone is enjoying it.
There
It's
go.
awesome. We're going deep. All right.
And so this comes with like links and stuff. Everyone's welcome to like go double check all of this information and research it for yourself. It's all like, I source everything. I've never been community noted on Twitter ever, which I think is pretty impressive. But this was the Spotify stuff I was talking about earlier. ExpressVPN, which is owned by Cape Technologies, which is just an Israeli-based tech company. Cape Technologies used to run malware and adware under the name Crossrider, and also owns CyberGhost, Private Internet Access, and ZenMate. And then Cape Technologies is owned and operated by Israeli billionaire Teddy Sagi. So right there, you have Israel all up in it. They used to do malware and adware, which is like, we're going to create the problem and then sell you the solution, kind of shit. And they sponsor a lot of people. And and what Israel does with all their tech is, like, anybody that's connecting to ExpressVPN, they're collecting all of your data and sending it to Tel Aviv. That's
That's dirty.
Yeah, and Joe Rogan sells it to his audience as though it's like a safe and secure way of surfing the internet.
God damn.
Yeah. And then you brought up On It with his Alpha Brain stuff. So Joe Rogan was actually like one of the co-founders of On It, and they got sued for false advertising. So there's another false advertising. On It he sold it to Unilever. And you know how much shit Unilever owns. They also own Liquid IV, which also sponsors Joe Rogan. Unilever is the one that owns like half the fucking grocery store.
Yeah, dude.
And then you have Simply Safe. So Simply Safe is owned by Hellman and Friedman. Hellman and Friedman gets its namesake from Warren Hellman and Tully Friedman. Hellman was a partner at Lehman Brothers, an investment firm partly responsible for the subprime mortgage crisis from 2008. Hellman founded what would become Matrix Partners, which was an early investor in Apple, shit like SanDisk, all these like startup tech companies. And then Friedman, the other guy, he was once a managing director for the Salomon Brothers, where he founded the firm's West Coast Corporate Finance Department and served the firm's National Corporate Finance Administrative Committee. The Salomon Brothers were the tenants of a building more famously known as World Trade Center 7, owned by Larry Silverstein, which mysteriously collapsed during September 11th.
Yes.
And then Friedman also sits on the board of Clorox, Church's Chicken, Capital Source, Levi Strauss, Mattel, McKesson. He's part of the American Enterprise Institute, which is tied up with Purdue Pharma. They were responsible for the opioid crisis. American Enterprise Institute is what Purdue Pharma had Sally Sadel work through to convince, like, to try to victim blame the opioid crisis on the people that were getting prescribed opioids. And J.D. Vance used to work at American Enterprise Institute.
Damn.
And there's that one. There's the Dollar Shave Club, which, do you remember me talking about Kleiner Perkins earlier? About how they like set up the military and the helped set up like Silicon Valley and funded the Israeli takeover of big tech. So Dollar Shave Club was it received seed funding from Kleiner Perkins, Andreessen Horowitz, which is Mark Andreessen, who he was just talking to, Shasta Ventures, and others. And then it was bought by Unilever, which sold it to Nexus Capital Management, which Nexus Capital Management owns its own share of various brands, including the ACT, which is the ACT test.
Yes.
That people take in school.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then obviously there's UFC, which is owned by TKO, which is Ari Emanuel. You have Silver Lake Group, which is Jim Davison, David Rowe. David Rowe was CEO of Liberate Technologies and vice president at Oracle, which comes back in again, CIA, all that shit. You have Roger McNamee, which is Integral Capital Partners. And then most people are probably familiar with Blackstone, which is Glenn Hutchins, which is, largest shareholders include Vanguard, BlackRock, Capital World Investors, State Street, Morgan Stanley. Served as a special advisor on economic and healthcare policy for Clinton, and also gets investments from Vanguard, Morgan Stanley, and others.
Wow.
And then we went over the 23andMe stuff, where the connections back to like the Human Immunome Project, Oracle, the Operation Stargate shit. This one, Black Rifle Coffee Company, is Authentic Brand Groups, which is run by Green Beret Special Ops and CIA, and then another guy from Goldman Sachs who is also in charge of PepsiCo, Panda Group, Taco Bell, shit like that. And then Matt Best, who claims he's like a CIA contractor. Authentic Brands owns Reebok, Champion, Nautica, Eddie Bauer, Aeropostale, Lucky Brand, Nine West, Brox Brothers, like all this shit, Roxy, Forever 21, Volcom, Ruka, Element, and they also own the rights and likeness of David Beckham, Shaquille O'Neal, Muhammad Ali, Elvis Presley, and Marilyn Monroe. And then you have Calm, that he's sponsored by, which is created by a WEF agenda contributor who is also Ripple Health Group and president of Rally Health. And the other guy that runs that company came from Goldman Sachs. Then you have BetterHelp, which is the whole Teladoc thing. That's just Israel again. And they had a collaboration with Microsoft. And yeah, it's messy, man. That's most of the ones that I've dug into. And that's not even all the ones that he's ever had, or even the ones that have been covered by Matthew North. I mean, there's some that I haven't completely mapped out yet, but those are the one I'm like, okay, so you have Israel, you have BlackRock, Unilever, Goldman Sachs, CIA, fucking just all this shit, man. And it's like, there's no way that he doesn't know.
Yeah. I think we've given some examples as to that. Yeah, it's wild. Even listening to you read the sponsors, it goes back to my 100% devotion to the Joe Rogan podcast. All these, sponsors and ads I heard just over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Little did I realize how, goddamn,
yeah,
how much of a problem they were.
Yeah, the ties to the Solomon Brothers and World Trade Center 7, the Israel shit, the the guy that is connected with like Microsoft. I mean, there's so much stuff. The World Economic Forum guy, the World Trade Center 7 shit. It's so much.
Yeah. Joe's ties to the psychedelic movement should be concerning. Yeah, that's true. That's another thing that he's constantly pushing, taking ayahuasca trips and whatnot. Now, some people do it and it helps them out, but you do have to wonder when someone like at Rogan's stature and what he's doing with everything else, if there's other sinister things
There is.
that are brewing. Oh,
Do you know about Peter Thiel getting into psilocybin mushrooms?
no.
So Peter Thiel has been funding a lot of like the companies that will eventually become like legally publicly able to sell psychedelics, like mushrooms and things like that. Peter Thiel is already like he seeded a lot of those in the same way that he seeded like very early big tech stuff. And like right here it says in this article, is this Peter Thiel backed startup trying to monopolize the astral plane?
Sheesh.
And it just goes into like that he they've done research with like DMT and ecstasy and LSD and all these things, and that basically Thiel, whose tax avoidance exploits were highlighted in an eyebrow-raising ProPublica expose last week, has made substantial bets on psilocybin treatments. Compass Pathways, in which he owns a 7.5% take, is one of the leaders in commercial psilocybin R&D. So, it seems like it's more of that pushing people towards these things that are controlled and captured by all these people.
Yeah. Did
Peter
you see?
Thiel.
Yeah. Did you see this little clip that came out the other day?
I did. When I saw it, I posted
Mr.
it and
Thiel,
said,
do you have any
I'm
comments
surprised
about
he didn't defer to
volunteer-
Israel.
Yeah. Look, he even walks like a goddamn goon. Check this
Yeah.
out.
surveillance of the American people, sir? Or any of your connections to Jeffrey Epstein? People are rather concerned about that last particular one. You're setting up a big brother surveillance system, and people know it, sir. You think the American people want this surveillance tech being used against them? Any comments at all on the Epstein connections? You were meeting with them.
Nothing.
This is boots on the ground reporting right here by Dan
Yeah.
Dix. This is
People are waking up
badass.
to what you're doing there, sir. That's why we're here covering this.
So for the audio listeners, audio only listeners, what we just saw was Peter Thiel walking towards I don't know, some kind of an appointment or meeting, and Dan Dix from Press for Truth sees him and approaches him saying, hey, starts asking him all these questions. How do you feel about the surveillance state? Do you think the public likes that? What about your Epstein connections? A lot of the questions that Joe Rogan never asked when he had Peter Thiel on his podcast, oddly enough.
Yeah.
So, a couple, at the very beginning, I gave you a couple of examples of people having Epstein ties. Joe Rogan likes to carry himself as like some kind of Epstein expert, but he's had multiple guests with Epstein ties, and he never brings their connections up. And so I brought up Anthony Kiedis. I brought up that Adam Perry Lang, and I forgot about that. But Peter Thiel is another one, in which for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long that podcast was with Joe Rogan, the Epstein shit wasn't brought up. It wasn't a big issue. Nor was the surveillance stuff. It's insane, man.
Or his collaborations with Israel.
Yeah.
Because he was like actively already working with them when he sat down with Joe Rogan last year.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, and it's super interesting too because Joe Rogan is constantly putting on comedians, quote unquote comedians, because some of them I'm like, this dude's a comedian, or this woman is a comedian. The hell is going on here? But he'll do that regularly, and those are sometimes they can be okay shows, sometimes they're boring as hell. It just depends on the quote unquote comedian. But some kind of a ecosystem has come out of the Joe Rogan, comedians in the Joe Rogan sphere. I mean, he's out in Texas these days. He has a comedy club which they have built up, and they bring in top of the level or top of the food chain type of comedians allegedly. And some of those guys have gone up and made big names for themselves. Someone like a Dave Smith. Dave Smith is now a political commentator. Some people say he's controlled as well. Then you have Theo Von. And Theo Von, I'm not gonna lie, he's one of the few. I think most of the Joe Rogan's comedy friends are not funny at all. They don't make me laugh. They're boring. They don't make me laugh. Theo Von, on the other hand, he does crack me up. He's a freaking
funny.
weirdo. He's hilarious. But Theo Von doing a podcast with Donald Trump prior, it was almost like a primer to go on the Rogan podcast. Theo Von, in a weird way, he seems to be clearly another one of these PSYOP influencers at this point, which is super strange, man, because he's just a knucklehead comedian, but yet he's having these conversations with these people, and they all come from this Joe Rogan sphere, man. It's almost like Joe Rogan is on top, and they all like spider out, from the Joe Rogan sphere. What's your take on that?
So I actually have a crazy theory. I think that the Comedy Store was the taking over of the comedy scene by not organic institutions. So that's where like a lot of these comedians that are huge now all got their start. That's Pauly Shore's mom.
Yeah, Mitzi.
And I can't prove it, but based on like just the way that I've kind of seen the world around me and knowing the way things work in politics and psyops and infiltrations and COINTEL and Laurel Canyon, it seems like it may have started there.
Yeah, man, it's super weird, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But like I said, dude, it's weird how this little group of comedians that surround Joe Rogan, all his homies and shit, they're not funny, man. Like a Brett Kreischer, all the son of a bitch does is rip his shirt off, walk around with his shirt off, and makes loud noises, and somehow he has an audience. I'm like, I don't get it, man. I don't understand it. I feel I have a pretty good taste when it comes to comedians, man. And these guys, none of them make me laugh at all. Like, and it's not like I'm being a hater. I've tried. I'm like, I'm watching you. Make me laugh.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do shit for me. Like, dude, you're fucking horrible. How the fuck? And so it seems like they're serving other functions is really the only conclusion I can come up with.
Oh yeah.
Their comedy doesn't hit, man. And I'm sorry, maybe there's someone listening now like, what are you talking about? I think Brett Kreischer is hilarious. I don't know. Maybe it's just a subjective thing. You know what I mean?
Well,
hit me.
When you start to look at all of these people and you look into like their history and who their dads were, like I think Bert Kreischer's dad is like a very prominent real estate guy, and Bert went to, I forget which college he went to. I think it was Florida State or something. And when it comes to like fraternities and shit, that's where all these people meet each other, and like, this person's son will go to school with this other person's son, and there'll be something there. But he went to school with he was in Alpha Tau Omega, which, do you remember me bringing up that Kleiner Perkins thing earlier?
Yeah, yeah.
One of the guys that was working with the mentor of the founder of Kleiner Perkins was basically in this fraternity. And there's a lot of other people. And it reminds me of like when you go look at like Phi Beta Kappa and you see all the people that are connected there. And you know, you look at Tom Segura, I think his father was like an investment banker or something. And now I'm like, okay, so are these people actually popular, or are they boosted to appear as though people like their stuff? And then that in turn manufactures more people to watch their stuff and become invested and buy their tickets and go to their shows and things like that.
Yeah, that. I suppose you could even say that that's another form of engagement, which a lot of people view the whole Rogan experience as it's out there to form engagement, get people fired up.
Yeah.
You know, like I mentioned, the way I found out about the Rogan podcast was through a fucking controversial podcast guest. Anytime he has these controversies, it just makes him blow up that much more. During COVID, he was pushing against vaccine mandates, and he, you know, CNN, he started feuding with CNN, having these public spats. That was another time for me that I started having a red flag, was early during the COVID days, because he then had Peter Hotez. Do you know who Peter Hotez is?
No.
He is I think he's high up in the CDC, bro. He's one of these like super balls deep in the government vaccine pushers.
Yeah.
Dr. Peter Hotez. And he had him on, and it was early on during COVID, and Peter Hotez was on like, yeah, everyone, when we get the vaccine ready, get lined up, and it's gonna save the day, and blah blah blah, like talking all like pushing it. I'm like, what the fuck? Joe Rogan has this fucking clown on his podcast? That was another red flag, bro. Early on, I'm like, how the hell? Later on, Joe Rogan is like, yeah, if I would have known about Peter Hotez, blah, 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 I wouldn't have had him on and blah, blah. Then you fucking had him on your show.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan constantly says he puts on people he wants on his fucking show. No one is controlling him on who he platforms, and he puts on Dr. Peter fucking Hotez.
Yeah.
A certified fucking scum, bro. This little fat, pudgy little motherfucker is a lying ass piece of shit. In Joe Rogan, again, kind of like when he asked Trump about his ear, Rogan put Peter Hotez on the spot and goes, hey, shouldn't you be worried about health? You know, like you like to eat fries and hamburgers. Instead of putting vaccines in your system, shouldn't you go out for walks and you know, do more physical exercise? But that was clearly, I feel, not someone that Joe Rogan, if he really was on our side, would have platformed to begin with. You know, like, fuck this guy. I'm going to put him on my fucking show. He's telling the world to go get vaccines and shit.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, that's a thought. Let's see what you have here. Okay, I got your...
So you were bringing up Theo Von, and Theo Von is apparently a descendant of Polish royalty. And his dad was involved with a bunch of operations here. So that quoted tweet goes into his dad being in like Nicaragua and shit, and helping with that around the time that like the Council for National Policy and shit was down there working with them to try to coup the government.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So I just discovered Theo Von's Polish aristocratic dad was reportedly chairman of the Un-American Activities Committee of the U.S. Senate, an editor of Latin American Report for a NOLA newspaper, and he propagandized on behalf of the Contras in the 80s. Holy shit.
Yeah. And then the quoted tweet also has some of his involvement with, like, I think it was Harry Connick Jr. or something.
Let's see.
Like, there's a whole thread about Theo.
Theo, let's see.
when he
Theo
was on
Von
Road
also got
Rules.
his start on the U.S. Whoa! On
Yeah.
the U.S. military-supported MTV program Road Rules. Fucking hell, dude.
Yeah, man.
Being on shows like this is like what crisis actors. This is how a lot of crisis actors. They're found on these reality TV shows, and then they go out and. This is wild.
Yeah, when he went up on stage in Qatar on behalf of Donald Trump right after he cried about Palestine.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you realize you're just like hanging out and doing favors for the president that's like pushing Israel to genocide Gaza and then crying on your show about Gaza. It doesn't make any sense.
David Duke is Theo Von's next door neighbor.
That's
What
crazy.
the fuck? That's hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a great thread. And
Oh,
it
yeah.
is by Para Power Mapping.
And they have collaborated with Whitney Webb in the past on a couple of things.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I wanted to, let's see. I wanted to show this little clip that it was from the Matthew North video that he put out. And I
Right.
believe it was on the 25-minute mark, if I remember correctly. Some shit like that. Let's see.
What's going on. So let's watch a couple of these clips here.
Oh yeah, look around.
Hey, Aubrey. Aubrey needs to hire Olivia over there at a high salary. I'm going to hire her away.
You can't. I just brought her in for an interview. You can't take her in the first hour.
No,
You gotta give me a chance.
And the bones of what?
No,
There's
no.
bones?
No, you want to work here? This is cool. We can just carry on the stories over here. We're gonna be working together. It's almost happened a couple times already.
We're going to be working together. Now, Jones is obviously coked up in this podcast. Anytime you come around these On It connected, Maps connected, people that are researching drugs for corporate and government.
I'm trying to get him. He plays a clip of Alex Jones. Unfortunately, the Odyssey little time scroller isn't the greatest, but let's see here. Maybe this is the clip I was looking for.
That's interesting. Let's watch this one.
Want to hear some more? Here, let's do the voice from heavy metal. My evil extends across all time, all galaxies, all dimensions. A green jewel. Look into me one last time.
Strong. I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that is.
Great.
Now we're having.
Darth Vader. That's still Darth Vader?
I am here to tell you the secret of the Lochnar is on it. It is the Alpha
yeah.
Brain. I've OD'd on Alpha Brain and found Valhalla. No need for ayahuasca. But the nemesis Brain Force has arrived. A little plugging now.
Brain Force. Now,
Maybe it was the wrong clip, but I mean, there we have him pushing on it
Yep.
as a matter of fact. And there's a clip that Matthew North puts out where Alex Jones is basically telling Rogan, like, you're gonna be a controlled bitch.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Alex Jones, like, I didn't want to be a controlled bitch, but here I am, a controlled bitch. And you're next. They're coming after you, Rogan.
Oh,
And
man.
it's kind of a damning ass clip, bro.
Yeah.
And that's why I wonder if he became bot, not necessarily because he wanted to. It's a weird. I don't know. Let me get your thoughts on it. But when I think about it, let's say you have a successful podcast like Rogan, #1,
Mhm.
and the feds come up, Mossad comes up and says, "Look, man, we can do it. We can do it the easy way, or we can do it the hard way.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna be pushing this shit from here on forth. We're gonna give you some fat stacks. Here's what you can't talk about, and that's how it's gonna work. Now, if you don't do it, we got things that give you cancer. We can make you disappear, and your family's gonna be fucked.
Yeah.
You choose. Take the blue pill or the red pill. I mean, let's be human for a second. That's a tough fucking situation to be put in.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel Alex Jones, I think he's a scummy motherfucker. I think he's a piece of shit, especially now. 100% certified, bought and paid for. But let's be human for a second, and let's say this is what happened to both of these clowns. That's kind of a fucked up situation to be in, man. And so, I mean, you see Alex Jones. There was a clip of Alex Jones had Nick Fuentes on not too long ago.
Mhm.
And Nick Fuentes starts talking about, and Nick Fuentes is also, by the way, he's not our guy. But Nick Fuentes asked a legitimate question about Israel or something along those lines. And Alex Jones, they were talking about Palantir and the surveillance state. And Alex Jones starts like, no, they're not bad. He had a hard time. You could sense it. It was hard for him to defend Palantir.
Yeah. He was.
Did you get that sense?
So he was kind of phrasing it in a way where like Palantir was the little good guy standing up to the deep state, intelligence and tech companies, and they were trying to paint Palantir in a bad light. And it's like Palantir is literally the company that created the NSA software that they spy on all of us with, and they did that 15 almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Like nothing Alex Jones is gonna say positive about Palantir is going to change that fact or my mind.
Yeah, then someone pointed out how when you see Alex Jones doing like videos from home, you see these palatial gardens.
Yeah.
He's got like these nice water fountains in the back. Like, this motherfucker doesn't look like he just got out of a $1 billion lawsuit, man, at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
He's a 100% propagandist, man. And that's the line he's pushing these days. Donald Trump is fighting the deep state. He's fighting for us. We're going to win. We're going to win, and buy my dick pills and all this shit.
Yeah.
100% propagandist, man. And, but what are your thoughts on that, man? Like, are they, because there's different lines of thoughts. Some people think they've always been, that was their destiny to be these propagandists. I kind of want to say that they got intercepted at one point. This is why I don't believe in any of these big figures. Anytime you see these big stars, maybe they started off organically, but at some point you get their attention, you get their eye, and like, hey, this is how we're gonna do things from here on forward. Another one of these clowns, Tim Pool. Look at Tim Pool, man. So what are your thoughts on that line of thinking?
I do think that there are like genuine and organic people that start out good intentioned and they get that silver or lead conversation. And I think that for especially these days that maybe it's less lead and more like, hey, we're going to honeypot you into like a sexual assault thing, or we're gonna remotely plant like illegal content on your phone and make it look as though you're this bad person, because they don't have to kill people anymore. They just make them, they digitally blackmail them. And that's why they got rid of Jeffrey Epstein, because they don't fucking need him anymore. They just do everything digitally.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to like Joe Rogan and Alex Jones, I think both of them were not genuine. I think Alex Jones, especially as much as he talks about like his family having connections to the CIA and how well connected he was to Corsi and Roger Stone, like way before the Sandy Hook stuff. I think Bill Cooper was right about Alex Jones way back in the beginning. And I've even heard him described as like a discarded Rockefeller asset, which I am starting to be inclined to agree with. Now, when it comes to Joe Rogan, as far as I'm aware, his dad or stepdad, one of the two, was like a prominent figure in media and like PR or like company relations or something like that, and raised Joe Rogan basically. And then, you know, you have that picture of Joe Rogan when he was really young, hanging out with, who was it, the son of Anton LaVey or whatever?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's also very, very strange. And then I found this clip. So this was Joe Rogan talking like back in the day about aliens. And this guy was basically claiming to like have proof of aliens on video or something like that. And what he says caught my eye here.
Tell the government right now, tell you right now, if you're listening, NSA, CIA, I'm available. Okay. If you show me all the real wreckage, I swear to God, I will make fun of that crap to the end of time. I'll make up stories. I'll lie to my mother. I don't care. Tell.
So offering himself up and being like, hey, if you guys just show me the videos on the aliens, I'll lie to my mother. And it's like, that's not okay. So this is Ian Carroll doing humanitarian work, allegedly in Guatemala or a Latin American country, when he was very young. And then here he is coming back, controlling perception and setting up nonprofits, just like Trevor Fitzgibbon, Michael Schellenberger, David Fenton before him.
Damn.
And then I have some other stuff, which is like all of the events that Trevor Fitzgibbon has thrown. So like the COVID litigation conference, you have the Rage Against the War Machine, where Ian Carroll was a speaking guest, along with Ron Paul, Keith Knight, Dan McKnight, Daniel McAdams, Clint Russell, who I also don't like, and Roger Waters. He was responsible for the Rescue the Republic, which is Tulsi Gabbard, Douglas McGregor, Walter Kern, Tim Pool, Jordan Peterson, Matt Taibbi, Mike Benz. Yeah.
Holy shit. All right.
Trevor Fitzgibbon also did the, there was another one on here somewhere. The Celebrate American Exceptionalism, and that one's going to come up in a second, which had Tyrus Murdoch, all of Mike Flynn's America's Future people, so Laura Logan, his sister, Kirk Cameron, all these same people. Defender of Freedom, Get in the Fight, where you had Mike Tyson, Eddie Griffin, Del Bigtree is a big one, Russell Brand, Pierre Corey, Ian Carroll, George Webb, Jason Goodman of the Crowdsourcing the Truth stuff, and everything they're wrapped up with, like James Alefantis and the Bisses, which were connected to like Silent Partner, which is his firm that helped run the RFK campaign.
Sheesh.
Right. And so you have all of these, and I just think it's interesting because when I start to look at all of the stuff that Ian has talked about and all of the people that he's endorsed or interacted with, and you start to like line them all up. I was doing some digging. This was that Celebrating American Exceptionalism thing, or like this was a movie soiree apparently that was being thrown by Mike Flynn and his team at Mar-a-Lago this past March, or March 2024. So this was over a year ago, and this was posted by Liz Crokin. She tagged Mike Flynn, Mike Flynn's sister, America's Future, etc. What does Ian say in response? Nice work, team. To me, in my opinion, that sort of implies a little bit of a collaboration or a networking thing, or that he is in with these people. Yeah. And, you know, when you partner with that with the fact that Mike Flynn reposted him and blew him up like 2 months prior, I don't know, man. It seems like he's very, very close with all these people. And, you know, you think back to the RFK support and, you know, backing Trump, and the fact that he was like backing Elon. He said Tulsi Gabbard was a good choice. You know, I have a screenshot of him saying Tulsi Gabbard's officially in charge of the American intelligence community. Here she is with the world leaders. She was also part of the military PSYOPs division. Yeah. You know, Ian Carroll, he's really good. His podcast co-host, Kyle Kemper and Dustin Stockton, they're really, really good friends with Brock Pierce.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I have stuff on that. Let me see if I can find it here.
Brock Pierce, another Epstein
related person.
Dude. Yep.
And isn't it crazy too? Here, I'll bring this back up while I find that. But isn't it crazy that this guy blew up on GameStop and stealing Whitney Webb's work on Epstein, and then doesn't know who Peter Thiel or Brock Pierce is?
Pierce. Yep.
Either one of them.
Big fucking red flag right there, man.
I would say that's a huge red flag. I confronted him about this.
Yeah.
And he said he didn't know anything about Brock Pierce except that he was a child actor and now he's a crypto star. And then he apologized for his friends of his friends, which to me says that his friends are friends with Brock Pierce.
Yeah.
Which is...
And what does he pride himself on quite a bit? What does he always say when he gets called out on things similar to these, what you just did? He's always saying, "I'm new to this, guys. I didn't know."
Yeah.
That's always his comeback every time he gets exposed for this or for that. I mean, lately, a lot of people have been hitting him up because of the Palantir shit.
Yeah.
You know, he's now pretending like he's like, "Yeah, man, I'm disappointed." What the fuck you mean disappointed? A lot of people have been talking shit about Palantir, Peter Thiel, and all this shit for long periods of time, and he's ignored it.
Yeah.
But now he's acting like, "Oh man, I didn't know. Come on, guys, you guys gotta watch out for the surveillance state." Oh, get the hell out of here. Yeah, man. I think for me, what sealed it that he was 100% co-opted was when he got on the Rogan stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
If there was any doubt, man, as soon as he got on Rogan, I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is fucking controlled right here."
Yeah. And you know, even before the election happened, I argued with him directly. Like, me and him were going back and forth in comments, and I was like, "Dude, Trump is owned." I actually have an entire list of things that I brought up to him that we'll get to in a second. But so Ian runs this podcast called the Maha Podcast. You know, RFK, Trevor Fitzgerald, all those motherfuckers. The wellness company is tied up with that, and I'll get to that in a minute. But so I asked him, "I want to know why your podcast co-hosts were hanging out with Brock Pierce a few weeks ago, and why you always dodge covering Peter Thiel any chance you get." Yeah. Brock Pierce in 1999 was accused of child rape, and they settled out of court after they resigned. So it was they never were found guilty, but they decided to step down and pay the victims, apparently. So, you know, that to me implies guilt, but you can't say that. And he said in response, "I've covered Peter Thiel numerous times," which was a lie at this point. And then he said, "I don't know Brock. I've never met him. You know, all I know is he's an actor and a crypto billionaire. Sorry for a friend of a friend." And then I post a screenshot of the Rolling Stone article that says "The Strange Saga of Jeffrey Epstein's Link to a Child Star Turned Crypto Mogul," which is all about Brock Pierce. And then you have Dustin Stockton, who says that Brock is an absolute legend patriot. And Brock Pierce is the guy that is, he co-founded Tether. And he's basically going to be responsible for bringing stable coins to the U.S. For the technocratic agenda, which I've covered a few times. But he's working with like the Trump, you know, World Liberty Financial, and he's working with Binance, and he's working with MGX, and all of these things to bring stable coins to replace physical currency. But you know, I'm sure he's a good guy, minus all the child allegations and the technocratic agenda.
Yeah, did you know he was also, so Epstein had like a little conference on Little St. James, and where they brought in all these other scientists, and Brock Pierce was invited on there. He was on the flyers and shit.
Oh, and, wow.
Yeah, he was he was a featured guest speaker at Little St. James.
Insane.
This is Brock fucking Pierce. But Ian Carroll doesn't know this. How is he supposed to know?
Yeah.
He's just a TikTok influencer.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Who is buying this shit, bro?
I have no idea. And it's crazy too, because I posted something about this the other day, and I was like, I'll sit there and say, hey, this guy, has ties to, Epstein clients. He runs around in, intelligence circles and shit. And people were like, oh, you're just jealous. And I'm like, are you fucking retarded? I'm telling you, this guy is not a good guy. I don't give a shit. Dude, he could have 200 followers, and I would be calling him out. And I'd be like, don't listen to this guy. He's wrapped up with intelligence people and always misleading people, which I have a thread of examples for that also, if you want to get into that.
Hell
and every
yeah.
time he's giving people like false hope or hopium and shit like that. So I have that here.
All right.
Let's see here.
I'm trying to find that flyer where he was on Epstein. So while you do that, I'll be looking for that.
All right. So, it was right after he had ratioed Elon, quote unquote, on Israel, got things wrong, and completely left out Peter Thiel in the story about Epstein and Ehud Barak collaborating together on a company with Peter Thiel.
Right.
So, he was like, that you called me a diehard Trump supporter to this other guy makes it clear you have not been here very long and aren't all that familiar with my opinions. And someone said, but you did support Trump, right? Diehard or not, support is support. And so I come with this long list. I'm familiar with him supporting Alex Jones, who supports Trump and Elon, right? And it's a linked post. I stand with Alex Jones, follow his new network. I'm familiar with him courting people to Elon's America PAC, where he told people to go sign up for that, right?
Yeah.
I'm familiar with him discussing the Adelsons and then not mentioning they gave Trump $100 million, but covered their donations to the Democrats. So he goes into who the Adelsons are and how they're funding Kamala Harris and the Democrats. Doesn't mention Trump one time. And Trump got $100 million and the largest donation from them. And all of his elections have been funded by the Adelsons. I'm familiar with his preposterous rhetoric that Trump isn't beholden to the deep state. The reason why Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are the same is because they're both just puppets of the CIA and American military-industrial complex. Trump is the only president in any of our lifetimes who isn't completely beholden to them. Can you believe that bullshit?
God damn it. Yeah.
And then he says, you either vote for the CIA and corrupt oligarchical empire, or you vote for the only man we've ever seen who has the unique combination of traits that allowed him to win against them. I'm sorry, I couldn't keep a straight face with that, dude. Are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, man.
Talking about when he was on with Derek Bros, saying that Trump was the lesser of two evils, which we all know is bullshit.
I'm kind of, I don't know. I got mixed feelings. I love Derek Bros, man, but what is going on there, bro? What is going on?
I don't know. I don't know why. Because I'll be honest. If Ian was ever like, "Hey, can I come be on your show?" I'm going to tell him to go fuck himself. Because I'm not platforming somebody who's just going to be a liar and say the same propaganda I've been calling out for well over a year now.
Yeah,
fuck that shit.
And then he acts stupid when he gets called out on it. Oh, I'm new at this, guys. I'm new.
Yeah, and
you made it all the way to the fucking Rogan podcast, the podcast of all podcasts, in 2 years. Get the fuck out of here, bro.
Yeah, and it, people can listen to whoever the fuck they want to. You don't want to believe any of the things that I'm showing you, that's fine. You want to think I'm jealous or whatever the fuck, that's fine. I'm doing this for people's own good, and I'm like, okay, so if you were to put math problems in a calculator and 9 times out of 10 the answer comes back wrong, why would you keep using that fucking calculator? You don't have to listen to me. Go listen to someone that is not him. That's what I'm saying. I don't care about being famous or getting followers or shit. The only reason I got into this is because I don't trust anybody else to tell the entire truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Well, let's see. I mean, the whole thing about him, you know, having to drive 8 hours to go vote for Trump, making people think elections are still real.
Yes.
You know, he thanked the Democrats for bolstering Trump. He's confused that the father of the vaccine would pick pharma queen Susie Wiles as his chief of staff. Look, I am so confused by the appointment of Wiles. And it's like, were you not alive during COVID where he just like signed over access of the DOD to Big Pharma and made it to where people couldn't sue them?
God damn it, man. What a fucking clown.
I know. Oh, here's one. So he's making a big deal about the Israel-Iran war going on right now, right? But to him, according to him, when all the alt-woke super truthers ask me, how could you vote for a Zionist puppet Trump? So he's admitting that Trump is a Zionist puppet. And he says, this is how: an internet bill of rights, a federal ban on all censorship and thought policing with consequences. Here's the thing. We've had 3 anti-Semitism bills come out since Trump came into office, which is the exact fucking opposite of the thing that he's excusing the Zionism support for.
Yeah. Yeah. It's right there, dude.
Yeah. Praising Tulsi Gabbard, you know, saying that she's not a Zionist, insane. Him praising J.D. Vance after I had pointed out to him multiple times that J.D. Vance was groomed by Peter Thiel. Here he is calling a vote for Kamala a vote for the neocon war machine pharma complex censorship cabal, with zero mention of Trump and his ties to COVID, Operation Warp Speed, and his war with Iran rhetoric. Look at that.
Yep.
I made this post back in January.